solo practitioner. And welcome, Barry.
Thank you. It's nice to be with both of you.
Nice to have you here. It was so nice to have you attend the summit, and we'd love to get your feedback. But before we do, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice, and because I know you have a very interesting background.
Well, yes, I started my own practice right out of law school in 1982 after reading a book called How to Go Directly into Solo Law Practice Without Missing a Meal. It was by an attorney in California. I followed his plan, customized it for New York, and have been in solo practice ever since and haven't missed any meals. I evolved through various different areas of practice during my career. Evolutions usually happen slowly and gradually. And so during my career, I started being a total generalist, taking anything and everything when I started, gravitated towards landlord-tenant, evolved to real estate, wanted to make more money, switched to plaintiff's personal injury work. While I was doing that, I made a little more money, but didn't really like it so much, but stayed with it long enough to discover a little service business for attorneys that I started to solve one of the problems I had in personal injury work, which was a court appearance business based in Queens County. It became known as per diem practice. Yes, I did coin the phrase with my then partner, Diana Gianturco. And I did that per diem business for quite a while. Then had a little personal and health setback in my 40s, had a heart attack and didn't work for a year. When I was able to start working, I had to adjust what I was doing in the per diem business to something that suited what I was able to do. Got rid of the personal injury work, which I probably should have done before, but wasn't smart enough. So it took a heart attack to wake me up. And then wanted to find an area of practice that I liked better. So started doing probate and estate administration 20 years into my career. Self-taught, been doing it about 18 years now, really like it. I tell that background in some detail because I think all of us as attorneys are facing the need to make sudden evolutions with the pandemic, and I'm no exception. At the time the lockdown happened here in New York, most of my practice was still the per diem business, and I was still appearing. I was doing about 30% of my practice as probate and estate stuff, and maybe 5% writing, speaking, teaching, and consulting with other attorneys, but it was more aspirational than actual. Since March, though, the courthouses are closed in New York. They've switched mostly to virtual. I don't know if the court appearance business is coming back. So I've got a 60% gap in my income that I have been filling by evolving quickly and learning how to market my probate practice better, which I've been doing, how to get a better workflow, which I've been doing, and had some opportunities to do some writing, speaking, teaching, and consulting that I'm still pursuing. So in a certain way, opportunities presented themselves. At least that's how I see it. And I think that's probably true for everybody if you choose to see it that way. So that's from 1982 to the present. Here we are, and I decided to attend the conference. So.
And Barry, you also wrote a book on solo practice. Do you want to talk a little bit about that really quickly?
Certainly. The book is a memoir. It's called Evolutions of a Law Practice, How I Opened My Solo Law Practice Right Out of School and Lived to Tell About It. It came out in November of 2019. I'm not going to say I would have been on a countrywide book tour, but for the pandemic, but certainly the marketing and promotion of the book was curtailed somewhat by that. But it's on Amazon getting nice reviews. I have a little website for it. Here it is. And it basically, I tell my story in memoir form. And I've had people tell me that, who are not lawyers, that they liked it. And it's not just for lawyers, although I think lawyers could really identify with it. I've got a few war stories in there because I think people like them and I like telling them. But it's not just a bunch of war stories and complaining. It kind of, I hope, tells what it's like to start, what I was thinking, why I made certain decisions, what worked, what didn't work, what I'm kind of glad I did, what I regretted, what I learned. And so if anyone wants to check it out, here it is in the, I just put it up in the chat as well.
Oh, great, thank you.
Yes.
Do you think that as a result of the pandemic, you might add a couple more chapters in how to develop or to sustain a law practice during this time?
I've actually been thinking about the writing another book because this sort of presented itself. I mean, I wrote a book called Evolutions. I've written an article that's up on LinkedIn, and it's called The Next Evolution, because I think we're all there and we're all evolving. This is somewhat unprecedented what's going on now, because usually you evolve slowly. And here we've all had either the challenge or the opportunity to evolve suddenly. That's true for the court system too. I mean, I had this court appearance business that basically existed to serve and help lawyers with inefficiencies in the court system. Now the business may be out of business because the court evolved suddenly and suddenly jumped several generations ahead in technology and became more efficient.
It's so surprising to me how almost randomly the pandemic has impacted certain businesses. I mean, for example, my friend Matt Homan started a business in St. Louis. He set up this beautiful meeting center, and what he does is he hosts business meetings for lawyers and for other corporations, and he sells the meeting as a service. So he sells himself as a consultant and the meeting package with it. But the premise of it is being on site in that facility. Well, when you have the pandemic, you have to regroup really quickly. And now he's been doing a lot with virtual meetings, but it's just this randomness, these things that's like your per diem practice seemed like such a great idea. And all of a sudden, one small change and it can just kind of tank overnight. But your book also sounded interesting when you're talking about the stories, because that was one of the things we heard a lot of at our conference, were a lot of stories. So I think that way of sharing an experience is something that's very powerful.
Anybody in practice is going to have stories, and of course, sometimes we have to be careful. When you tell them in mixed company or people that are not so interested, they're not as interested as lawyers. I'm usually comfortable telling my stories to lawyers, although even then it has a limited shelf life. So I've toned back on the storytelling over time, but they usually can be used to make a point in some way.
Barry, my husband is also an attorney, and he's got a very, very funny story that's not from mixed company that happened in Queens, right in TAP. So maybe I'll put you in touch with him so you can hear this story.
Yes, I mean,
it's crazy.
Some of the most insane things that ever happened to me happened in the trial scheduling part in Queens, but by no means the only ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could have gone 10 stories deep in the book if I wanted to tell all of my TSP stories.
I think litigators like us have the best ones. Seriously, it's one thing to be around a table and, being a transactional attorney, which absolutely has its benefits, especially, during a pandemic. But yeah, we have some choice stories for sure.
Yep.
So Barry, what made you decide, or what interested you in the summit, the Lawyer Mom Owner Summit, which, lawyer, yes, mom, no, owner, yes. So what made you become interested?
There were two main reasons. One is that I've been following Carolyn and my shingle for quite a few years now. And she was one of the forerunners in doing something that I always kind of wanted to do too, and I'm trying to do, which is sort of be a person who talks to other lawyers about law practice. The challenges, the opportunities, the issues that we face on a personal level, on a business level. She's been addressing these things for years. I always got a lot of benefit out of reading her post, her book, anything that she's posting, I was always following. So the fact that Carolyn was presenting a conference for lawyers in the pandemic made it of interest to me. The fact that it was a lawyer mom owner raised another issue that I found I wanted to explore a little bit for myself and just to think about a little more. And it's this whole idea of unconscious biases and things that we assume and reactions that we have that I was seeing in myself. A lot of this really came to light over the summer with the Floyd incident and with the Black Lives Matter, raised a lot of thoughts about, do I have unconscious biases? Anybody being honest with themselves, we all do, about many things and on many levels. I never really saw myself as a person that had terribly damaging unconscious biases regarding gender and parenting or any of those things that affect lawyers. It could be because of the type of law that I did and the type of lawyers that I encountered. But the idea of going to a summit that was going to be mostly women and moms and talking about their issues, I kind of knew what a lot of the issues and stories would be. I wanted to see for myself internally, am I going to have certain reactions, visceral or unconscious, to the stories that were being told? I did on some levels, and I felt I learned a lot just in self-exploration on that aspect of it. But truth be told, the main reason I went is I saw that they were going to be great speakers about issues that I was interested in.
So looking back now, after you've attended the summit, what are your reactions? And you can go panel by panel. You can go issue by issue. However you want to do it. This is a very open-ended question.
Well, I sort of liked learning what areas of law are of interest to people that are trying to either pivot their careers or leave big law or start a practice. And I was slightly aware of some of these and trademarks and the like, and just the way people talked about that and why it was appealing to them as somebody starting in solo. I mean, when people were talking about it, when the presenters were talking about it, I saw that some of these things made sense for somebody that was starting out or somebody that was a mom and needed a flexible thing. I have a lot of those issues too, and I always did. One reason why I was in solo practice and never tried to get a job is I wanted the freedom to be a dad who was involved, and I had a lot of reasons on a personal side why I needed to be involved. And so I was, and I had the ability to do that. I really enjoyed the sessions where people talked about the internet and the different platforms and how to use Instagram, which I can't quite figure out for myself, but I'm trying really hard, and the difference between the different platforms. Those speakers I thought were terrific, and I learned a lot. Funny thing, if I don't know if you guys thought that I might have felt like a fish out of water being one of the few men there. I didn't really feel that way. Where I felt a little like I wasn't in my milieu, so to speak, was on an age gap basis. I was a lot older than a lot of the people there. I don't view myself as an older person who's not tech savvy, far from it. But I was more conscious of the fact that I'm in a different age group with different issues facing me, and my family dynamic is a little different than a lot of the people. It didn't make me feel uncomfortable, but I did notice it. That being said, it made those talks about the internet much more pertinent and relevant to me. Hearing people's stories when I was in sessions where people were presenting kind of their background, and I was very conscious of the fact that this was a women's conference and people were going to present those issues. And sometimes as a man in sort of a mixed group, when somebody's main presentation feature or focus is, I'm a woman and a mom, I kind of want to hear about what you do, usually more than that. But in this context, it was appropriate. And I was sort of conscious of the idea of just listen, see it, feel it, understand it. And then when I said before that I wanted to notice things about myself, I guess I got a little of the mansplaining gene going on, because I was conscious of times when I wanted to jump in and tell my story because everybody needs to hear my story. But you know what? In this context, people didn't need to hear my story. It's okay. And I was okay with that. But I became conscious of the fact that I wanted to tell my story, but I didn't. I also had one funny incident that happened in one of the sessions. You had a feature that I really liked. And I like when at conferences there are sort of value added features. So you had this video socials room that you had to sign up for. And they're a vendor, and I understood that they wanted to promote what they were doing, but they were doing it in a way that demonstrated what they did. And for anyone that didn't see this or participate in it, I basically signed up. There were, I think, 8 or 9 of the attendees that signed up for this particular session, and there were a number of them. And what the company was doing and what they were offering was to have you make a little sample self-promotional video about yourself that they would record. We'd talk about how one does that, sort of like the elevator speech, but for a video. And so I signed up for that. I was a little late. I came in about 2 minutes after the scheduled time. When I quote unquote came into the room, it was like a visible reaction. And somebody said, because I heard it in my Zoom, this is a women's conference. Are you sure you're in the right place?
No.
Yes. So I didn't react in a bad way. I said,
Oh gosh.
well, I paid to be in the conference. Carolyn knows that I'm here. I'm sorry if it, and then a couple of other people jumped in. Well, no, we've seen him in other places. It should be okay. And then the person, whoever it was that said it, which I didn't even know who it was, said, oh, it's fine. I'm sorry. I said, no, it's all right. I want to participate. I just want to participate and learn something. Now,
Sexual harassment at our conference.
Yes. But here's an interesting thing. So the presentation started, the person kind of talked about, gave some hints and tips about how to make a video, how to talk about yourself, how to boil it down to the, and then it was basically who wants to go first. Now, I know in hindsight that if there were 8 other attendees besides myself, I would say 2 of them, because I heard their speeches, you know, as they went. In hindsight, 2 of them were experienced speakers and presenters, and 6 of them were quite nervous and were in the room to get better at it, which I give them a lot of credit for. I didn't know that when we were starting, but I said to myself, go first. I said, no, don't go first. Very bad idea. And so I kind of said, no, I'm not going to go first. And of course, not of course, that's a wrong thing to say. Not surprisingly, though, 2 people who did want to go first needed to go first because they needed to take care of some personal things and leave. And they were upfront about that, which I get it. So 2 people went first and they went. And then after that, it was, well, all right, those people left. Who wants to go next? I was very ready to go next. And I said to myself, don't do it. And I didn't do it. The other thing about that was that we were all encouraged to give each other feedback about the talk that you just heard. And I know when you're really giving feedback in a detailed way, and I've been in writing classes where you do this, positive being a negative, be encouraging, for sure. I wasn't going to say anything negative to anybody. And I mostly kept quiet, and they really weren't looking for really long feedbacks. And so I really didn't say too much. And I didn't go last, but I think I went next to last. And you know what? When I looked at what I did, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. So there, I have things to learn, as we all do. That's why I was there. So
yeah, Gina, did you have a chance to go into one of the rooms? Because we were so excited about that feature. I didn't understand why it wasn't getting more press. It was so original, and but I didn't have a chance to go into the room and see how it worked. I've been to a video social, one of the regular meetings that they have, and my first tape was just babbling because I was completely unprepared, and I was also frazzled, you know, when you can't get on the Zoom immediately and you're just kind of all over the place. So mine was even too bad to post, but it does take practice. But I'm glad that you went in. It sounds like you had a good experience. I'm sorry that somebody thought you were stalking the room.
No, it was really kind of funny. One thing about that room, just an observation, one reason why I went to that, besides that I was interested in making the video, is when I'm attending a conference, certainly live, but even on the virtual side, I look forward to kind of the interactive aspect and being able to market and network. It's very hard to present that, I think, in a virtual setting. When I went into some of the presentations, I mean, I know it's a Zoom, but if everybody's muted because people are presenting, and I totally understand that, but I was very anxious to go to something where I could network and talk, you know, have an interaction. I think that over time will work itself out as what's the right amount and what's the right level of doing that. And when you say, you know, it felt like a stalker, I didn't feel like anything like that, but I did have a funny feeling where there were times when it seemed like you were encouraging people to kind of come into some of the rooms for the presentations before or after. And there's few things that feel more awkward than you go in the room and nobody's there. It's like, oh
Yes.
no, they know I went in the room looking and nobody's there. Now
Aw.
everyone's going to think I'm looking to stalk the room.
Was that the green room, Barry?
Ye-
Between,
Yes.
yeah.
There were
Okay.
one or two times when I went and it was basically the speakers were in there. And then I was like, I don't belong here. I'm going to leave because it's not for me. But I thought, or I wasn't sure if you've got a room like that before or after when there wasn't interaction in the presentation, because it wasn't designed for that, that might be an opportunity. But I understand that. And also, just like everybody else at the conference, I was working while this was going on. I didn't attend every session in real time because I'm working. Here's my office. I'm working, you know. So
So actually you bring up a really good point that for next year, what we could possibly do is have lunch in those green rooms. You know, just set aside a lunch hour for networking and mixing and mingling in the green room.
I think that people like that aspect of
Yeah.
it. I leave it, you know, I defer to you guys as to what works and what doesn't work. But I think that's kind of a good thing. People are there to network besides getting the content, I think.
Well, you just gave us a pearl of wisdom, Barry.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad to do that.
Yeah, we were also learning. I've been reading more and more about these virtual conferences because I'm very intrigued, and I've seen that there are a whole bunch of different platforms that are being used. Clio used some sort of social media type platform, which I didn't have a chance to attend, but I heard it provided for a lot of interaction, but maybe wasn't meant for so many participants. And then I saw just somebody else had one where it was sort of organized by little tables. You went into a room and your face showed up like in a circle around a circle table. So it was
Yes.
to simulate a lunch table. So, you know, there's a lot of things to learn about. The tail kind of wagged the dog here. I sort of assumed that the tech was going to be the easiest part because I'd been Zooming all summer on depositions and hearings. So, and it turned out that it was a little more complicated than we had anticipated. So we were just grateful that the system didn't
No,
go down.
I thought I was kind of looking at that because I have it in my mind to do something like that, some kind of ongoing networking Zoom attorney. I've been hesitating to launch something like that because I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. My pattern and my history is I'll eventually do it and figure it out. I'm not somebody who's going to overthink it where I won't do it, but I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. It's another reason why I attended. I was at the Clio conference recently, and I know what you're referring to with the roundtables and the rooms. I think that is still sort of being developed, and I think they're probably going to learn from the experience too of how to do that more effectively and better. Because of course, if you're presenting a conference with substance and material and speakers, you want the attendees to focus on that, especially also if you have sponsors who have products. I would think you wouldn't want it to just turn into a networking only and people don't do the other things. If I do a networking thing, it's going to mostly be for networking, and that's going to probably present itself in different ways, and I may use different technology. I haven't figured it out yet.
Well,
but I will try.
Yeah.
we look forward to seeing what you develop, and hopefully you'll invite us to join you.
That's for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
So, I don't, do you have any other questions, Gina, or?
I don't, my questions were pretty much, you know, I wanted Barry to have the floor here and ask some just very general open-ended questions. Do you have any other questions, Carolyn?
I don't think so. I guess, let's see. So, no, I think you gave us pretty good summary of what it was like to be there. We have gotten really good feedback from the conference. Many people said it was a positive experience, and it had sort of a very encouraging vibe to it. Were you able to sense any kind of vibe being there with the limited interaction that you had, and also, I guess, hanging out in the chat rooms?
Yes, from the interaction and from the presentations and I was in the chat in a few of them as well. The overall tone was very upbeat and positive, and it's something that I'm trying to communicate to people when I speak with them. My thing is opportunities abound. There's lots of opportunities if people choose to see it, and the whole conference was a lot of people pointing out the opportunities, encouraging people to see the opportunities. if there are things that are obstacles, to see them for what they are and to go ahead and move forward. And that's
think that's
certainly out there.
I think that was our mission.
Yeah. I mean, it's a funny thing. I had a little saying in the per diem business for many, many years, sort of the touchstone theme was bad is good. And what I meant by that was, as a business proposition, the fact that court was difficult for attorneys in practice to deal with, the fact that it was kind of unfriendly and hostile and high volume and hard to figure out how to get a lot of things done and potentially wasteful, presented an opportunity to try to solve the problem. Well, everything that's happening, flowing out of the pandemic for lawyers is, in certain areas of law, well, like many businesses, it's going to be impacted negatively, but certain other areas of law are going to be busy and grow. So if somebody wants to say, all right, I'm going to sit around and wait for in-person court appearances to come back for my court appearance. Well, it's not, I know that. But if somebody is a landlord-tenant lawyer, a bankruptcy lawyer, a person who's doing international transactions, an IT person, anybody who, bankruptcy, immigration, all of these things are going to be ascendant going forward. And the lawyers that know how to come into the game and work virtually in a tech way, the old dinosaur lawyers, the guys and gals like me who aren't adapting, they're not going to flourish in the new environment. And the people that were at your conference who are figuring out the way to do it instead of complaining about why they can't do it the way they used to, those are the people that are going to succeed. I'd rather be associating and affiliating with people who are going to succeed and try to aspire to be one myself. So opportunities abound.
Absolutely. That's what I talked about in my keynote, were the silver linings out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we have to find them. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, you have such a great attitude, Barry. Because of that attitude, I know you refer to yourself as old, but you don't seem old at all, because when you are open to learning new things and always embracing the possibility, you don't, I think you age slower. So
I think that's so. Actually, in my book, the last chapter was, what did I learn? And even though they're just little thumbnails, I try to live by those things, and we're always learning. It's actually, to me, that's one of the best things about being a lawyer, is even in a field that even where you have some expertise. I do a lot of stuff in probate and estate administration. I learn something new every day. And I always encourage people as well, pay attention to other areas of law, even if you're not going to do them, so that you can be more conversant and so that you meet other lawyers and have a more intelligent conversation. I like to learn.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So, well, thank you for joining us here. I think everybody is going to be really interested in hearing what you've had to say about the conference. We finally have our recordings finished. And so the recordings are available to people who attended the conference. If you attended and you're watching this either recorded or partially live, you should have gotten an email instructing you how to access the videos. And we'll also be putting them up in the app. And I guess in the next week or so, we'll also be announcing, for those who didn't attend the conference, how you can purchase the recordings. So, keep an eye on that. We'll put some show notes or some comments in to give some more information. But thanks so much. It's interesting because Gina and I were so busy, we couldn't focus on the conference at all. So it was like, I felt like I wasn't completely there. I've had to go back and watch the videos so that I could do the in and outs for the edits. And even though I had sat through them, I missed about 90% of it. So it's good to hear this feedback too.
I am very appreciative for the conference that you put on, and Carolyn, for the work that you've been doing over the years, and for the opportunity to attend the conference and to talk about it today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barry. It was great meeting you finally face to face.
Thank you. All right. Have a good day.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Get this turned off.